yo, I'm glad you made it into the skate shop today. I'm going to teach you how to change your wheels and bearings on your skateboard or longboard. It's pretty much the same process on both, so just for simplicity's sake, we're using a popsicle board, normal skateboard, to demonstrate, but we'll also be having longboard wheels around, so they're interchangeable. To get started, we're going to go ahead and take our skate tool. If you don't have a skate tool, you can take some pliers, a half-inch socket will work as well, or a wrench. The goal here is to remove the nut so we can take the wheel off of your trucks and switch it out. So remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we're just going to go ahead and take off this nut. It's out. Now when you take off your wheel right here, be careful because usually there will be a washer right here. On this board I don't have it because it is pretty easy to lose the washer, so I'm going to show you what it looks like. This is from a different board. But normally this would go right in here, and as you remove it, you might see that it drops and you lose it forever. So keep that in mind. And then that's how you end up without the washer, which is pretty common. So now that we have the wheel, we can see that we have our wheel and then our bearing in here. To remove our bearing, the easiest way to do that is with just the skateboard truck itself. I've seen some people, they have like they'll bash it or something, or they'll use the skate tool to remove it. I think that's just way too complicated. Like, don't make your life harder. Just put your wheel like this. And you see that the leverage just pops that bearing right off. Now let me go find where that landed. Alright, so I found the bearing that went under the table. Set that aside. Let's go ahead and pop off the other bearing. The wheel. So go ahead and at an angle, just slowly twist it, and it comes right off. And this is good for people like myself. Like if you don't have a lot of strength, this is the easiest way to take it off, because otherwise you're going to be struggling with the skate tool and all that, trying to pry out your bearings. Right, so that's how you remove the bearings from the board. Now how do you put them back in? Well, that's the same process, but in reverse. So just pop the bearing back into the axle of your truck. Place your wheel right over it, and then you press down. Press down with both hands. Some force right in there. So now you have your bearings back in, and let's do the same thing for the other side. And that went right in. Now that we have this wheel out, we're going to go ahead and do what I actually wanted to swap. So these wheels and bearings are fine. They work on this board. Nothing to switch here. We're going to install some brand new bearings on a fresh set of wheels, and so I'm going to use this axle here to help me do that. So let's crack open a fresh set of wheels. So our nice brand new snakes right out of the package. We need to put in some bearings to get them going. And I have a brand new set of Zealous bearings. These bearings are actually a little bit different from what you'll usually see. The pop sound. But the reason why these bearings are actually a little different is because, see here, they have these the spacers, these little circles of metal right here. This is called the spacer. And that makes your bearing a little bit more stable, especially if you're going really fast, which is what the goal of longboarding is. So that'll help you out for that. If you're doing street skating, you probably don't need the spacers. They're not urgent, but you should have them because they help anyway, like they help preserve the longevity of your bearings. but they're not needed. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is crack open our brand new bearing, place that right here, and same process. Wheel and bearing on the axle, press down. So I'm an idiot and I put it backwards, so make sure I don't do what I did just now. You want to make sure that the spacer in your ring, or in your bearing here, is inside of the wheel. That's what gives it the stability. So as you can see, even anyone can make mistakes, right? And people have a little bit of experience. So we go ahead and put our bearing in correctly this time. And now you see that the bearing ends up inside of our wheel, nicely placed. We'll go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. There it is. Have a nice spinning wheel. And now another thing that you should know if you're installing this particular bearing, which is the Zealous bearing, is that you won't get a lot of free spin. I'm not sure you've noticed right now. If I go like this, the wheel doesn't spin independently for a really long time, but that actually doesn't matter. When you skate these wheels, you'll see that they roll just fine. It's just Zealous bearings have a different lubricant because it's meant to last longer. So that's why you won't get as much just free spin on your wheel, but it'll be fine. If you have wheels like the reds, if you have bearings here like the Bones Reds, kind of the standard which you usually have for your boards, you'll see that you get a lot more free spin on your wheels. And I'm going to show you what this would look like on a wheel without the spacers built in. So if it was just a normal bearing situation and you have to put the spacers in yourself, this is how you would do that. So this is a wheel. You can already see that the spacer is kind of in there in the middle. And that's one of the downsides of not having it built in, is that it shifts everywhere and it's kind of annoying to put in sometimes. So if you're hot swapping your wheels all the time and you just want to switch them on the go, this would be the reason why you would want to put spacer bearings on your board rather than having non-spacer bearings on your board, but it's really not a big deal. So I'm going to show you how to swap those out. Again, we put our wheel on the axle and then twist a little bit. Sometimes it might take some twisting back and forth to really pop it out. And now we see that we have the bearing spacer and we have the bearing itself, which is right here. And then take off the other side just so that's even. So we're going to go ahead and install our bearings with spacers. And what we do here is we have our wheel, have our bearings, put our bearing right on the axle, put our wheel right on top, and we press. So you can see it's the same process. Press, and now that's well and good in there. And to make the spacer thing, to make the spacer setup a little bit easier for us, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take our bearing, put that in. We're gonna take our spacer, put that in, and then press down. And now the tricky part is to go ahead and put the wheel in. You have to get the spacer that's in there to line up so that it goes in here and it doesn't bump. So what we can do is just tap our wheel slightly to move the spacer. Give our wheel some gentle slaps until it gets into place. And there it is. Sometimes you just have to slap it a couple times and it'll go right into place. So then now that we have our wheel, bearings, and spacers in here, we're gonna go ahead and put our washer. And then the nut. Tighten that with your hand at first just so that it goes in. Then you can tighten that with the skate tool. And you don't want your wheels super tight. You want some wiggle. That's fine to have. And you'll see that it rolls just fine. Okay, so now we've tightened, I over tightened it just to show you what that would be like. And here the wheels actually stop. So when you tighten your wheel, you want to aim for there to be a little bit of wiggle room, but not that much. See, this way your wheel will spin freely and it's not over tightened. If you really tighten this all the way down, it will stop your wheel from spinning and it might make you fall off while you're riding it because it gets caught. So maybe don't do that. But yeah, now we do this for all 4 of the wheels and the process is exactly the same. This is how you end up switching your wheels and bearings around. And so that was how you switch, and so that was pretty much it. That's how you switch out your wheels and bearings. It's a pretty simple process. It's a process that you'll be doing a lot, especially if you like to play around with wheels, which I do. I like to find all the different differences in how they ride. And then if your bearings are a little bit too wonky, you might want to invest in some bearing lube. What I have here is the Skanunu bearing and cleaner. This kind of helps it so that your bearings won't rust as easily. It helps them spin better. If you're using brand new bearings right out of the box, you probably won't need this. This is a little bit more for if you've skated them for a while and you want to give them a clean, then I recommend that. But cleaning the bearings and all that is a whole nother process, and it's honestly kind of a pain in the ass. So we won't be doing that today. Alright, so that was everything, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to switch out your own wheels if you're doing that. So now you're ready to get on out there and keep rolling. See ya.